Welcome everyone to Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to talk about Project Astra, Multimodal Live API, and we're really going to walk through a demo set of code from Google. Now, if you haven't been paying attention in the last few days or even the last few months, to catch you up, AI is moving along quite quickly. We're seeing a lot of different uses, but one of the exciting new worlds we're entering into are APIs, or rather AIs are fast enough to be running in real time, taking in footage of whatever you see, whatever you say. And so Project Astra is just one of many of these kind of projects in which you can point a phone and just bring it along with you to different places and just keep the video running and chat with the AI about the video. Now, I'm not going to, play the video for you, but you can imagine this person right here is, has a phone pointed at a bunch of books and is asking the AI about, which book he should pick. He goes out, walks around the city, points at different things, and it's not capturing images; it is a live video footage. Now, if you go into Google AI Studio, this is available to anyone with a Google account, and you could play around with it. It's meant for developers, but it's entirely free. You can just start taking a video. And so for me, wow, at this time, you see my screen right here. Whatever you are seeing on the other side, it's just my webcam. And I can ask, "Hey Google, can you tell me what you're looking at right now?"
Here you go. I can help with that. The man in the video is sitting in a black office chair in front of a microphone. He's wearing a gray long sleeve shirt, and behind him are two white doors to his left and a bookshelf to his right. There is a blue plush toy sitting on top of.
Perfect. So, you can see that there's a video capture. I can have a conversation, and it's particularly useful in different ways. So, if I clear this chat, one of the video sources is Screen, and that's the one I'm pretty excited about because I live more virtually and digitally than in the real world now, and I could just point it at a screen of a video game I'm playing, of code I'm writing, a document I'm editing, whatever. Um, but long story short, when I first saw this announcement, I went straight to AI Studio. I was playing around with it, but you can see there's no code here. Normally, when you create a prompt, you can see and get code and you could see where it is. And so I had the wrong assumption that this wasn't available to be built. That this was just a demo they're putting out in Google AI Studio. But that's just not true. It is available, and we can see some of the documentation here. Sorry, let me just close that up. Now, there's a couple things that stick out to me. This looks a little bit similar to OpenAI's advanced voice mode. So, OpenAI's voice chat API very similar as well, in which you can provide a real-time feed of audio and it would respond back. The problem I ran into when playing around with OpenAI's API is that it is meant for server to client. That means that you have your end user's app or website, but you need a server in between your end user and OpenAI. And sadly, that is true here for Google as well. They do not allow for authentication straight from the client to the to Google. And in many ways, that makes sense. Number one, the amount of token and compute and cost for all of this is exponentially larger. So you probably don't want clients to have all the authentication and all the pieces on their end. That makes sense. The other thing is just the authentication piece as well. It is a lot more serious now in terms of what data is going through, how much data is going through. It's not just strings that you can pick up. So it makes sense, but I kind of like the simplicity of connecting directly from the client to Google or OpenAI um, as a hobbyist. So you can see right here is designed for server to server communication, meaning that client to server is not what it's intended to do. You can definitely read through all of this. Useful to know, they have their Google Gen AI package is actually very helpful to simplify all of this, but their documentation is not really that helpful. So I was quite confused looking at this. What was much more helpful was looking at their WebSocket demo app. And so, at the end of the day, you're connecting to an API and you're asking for things and you're putting in settings. That doesn't come across very clearly with this Python code with the Google Gen AI package. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at their demo project right here. And I'm going to pull the rug from under you because I actually didn't get this working. I didn't want to sign up for a whole bunch of stuff with Google to try and get this working because it's not even a very impressive looking demo. I just wasn't going to go through all that hassle. But looking at their code, it is actually very simple. So I thought it would still be worthwhile to show you just how minimal a server you need to build this. You can probably run it off Raspberry Pi. You could probably run it off spare parts. And of course, you could use the cloud and do it fairly cheaply as well. So what is there here? There are instructions about how you would want to do this. It's very simple. You just download the code. You don't even need a virtual environment if you don't want it to. Install the dependencies, basically run the backend, run a server, and start it up. The problem that I ran into that I didn't want to do is you needed a Google Cloud Access token. You also need to have G-Cloud installed, or at least that's one of the ways you can get your access token. Not going to bother doing that. I have a feeling that Multimodal Live API is going to change a number of times and it's going to get more accessible over time. So not bothering with that. But what we do want to do is look at the code and try and understand what's happening. So there are 4 files. This is your virtual, my virtual environment, and there's also README, which let's just skip, and we will look at the files. The requirements.txt is fairly simple. This installs the Python packages that it's using, and there are only 2. One is async.io. This will, and that's the second one right here. Let's zoom in further. Async.io will let you asynchronously connect to various things. There are 1,000 different ways you can do this. This is just the one that that Google has chosen. The other one is WebSockets. You probably want to use the plain WebSockets, but there are a couple other ways you can do this as well. But WebSockets are absolutely necessary. They're available. They're a standard on the internet that allows usually voice and video calls. And so a way to look at these AI live chat tools is these are video calls or audio calls, some sort of calls with an AI on the other side. OpenAI, their voice API does the exact same thing. It opens up a WebSocket and you're basically having a voice call between you and your device and OpenAI. And so in this case, you are having a video call with Google. I'm going to skip this PCM processor and go to main first. This is all the Python code, and I'll just word wrap there. You'll find that we use async, JSON and WebSockets. You're connecting to specific places. Oh, this is actually really useful for me later. But you have a couple very, very simple functions. First of all, your main function, this is where it all starts. You're creating a WebSocket server. And so what's going to happen is you are asynchronously creating this. Sometimes it takes a bit of time to connect and start the server up, all of that. So you want to do this asynchronously so it runs in the background. You can do other things while it's happening. Handle client is this main one. This one is just putting in the authentication and setting things up, and then you're going to go create proxy. All of this is just setting up the connection here. So you have your URLs, you are connecting to the right places, you're using all the points up here so that you're connecting to a right place. And finally, what you're supposed to do is load data and then pass it back. This is a very, very minimal server. What is that? Less than 100 lines of code. You can see you are just setting up a connection, and then as a proxy, you are passing information back and forth. Your server essentially does nothing. It is a middleman that passes data back and forth. That's why this code is so easy to look at, and I hadn't thought about how I might build this, but this is a very straightforward way to do this. Now, since you have a server in the back, I'm gonna go back to our README here. What's gonna happen is you're gonna run this server in the backend. Next, this bit HTTP server is going to be how you run the website. And so if you come back here, you have your index.html. It is a single page website. I'm going to skip through all of this styling and even the layout. It's a pretty ugly layout, to be honest. But what's more interesting is all of this in the scripts. Once again, it's using very basic kind of things. So you'll see the video and the canvas. That means that there's a place for it to capture your video feed and put it on the screen. Streaming, I'll come back to that. All of this is just capture image, start webcam. This is all just setting the parameters up. You have your height and width, so how big your image is. Same thing here. You can capture an image from the video. Where I want to go here is where you connect. You're going to start a new WebSocket, but now you are going to the URL, and in this case, it's what you have run with your main.py, and this is localhost 8080. And so you'll find it down here that where you're hosting this WebSocket is localhost at 8080, and so you could theoretically change the name and port. But you're connecting to that on your client. You are not connecting to Google at all. You're connecting to your middleman server. There's a bunch of logging, but because you don't even have authentication required here, because you are the middleman and this middleman hasn't done any authentication, it is basically open up a WebSocket, connect to the right port and address. There's a bunch of these setup messages, but what's happening is you can send text messages, but here sending voice messages, and where'd it go? Huh. All right, that's fine. Sending voice messages is the challenge. So I'm gonna ignore all of the texting because, that's just well, you're passing text messages, but that's not difficult. Where a lot of this looks super intimidating here is actually handling voice. When you deal with audio in HTML and you're streaming it back and forth, um, you're not downloading a whole MP3, that's 3 MB that lasts, 3 minutes long. You're streaming bytes. You are streaming the immediate what you're saying, and it has to be very quick. And so a lot of this is taking in a stream and passing it back. And this is where the JavaScript piece comes in as well. And so there is a processor. You get a float 32 array, which is like a bunch of numbers representing exactly what you said, and you have to be able to pass that on very quickly. And so all of this stuff, admittedly, like kind of just goes over my head all the time because it's the same here, base 64 to array buffer. This is just a bunch of math converting this string of numbers into audio back and forth, back and forth. And so while this looks very, very intimidating, basically all of this, maybe not this, but all of this up here is boilerplate code that you are getting from a textbook. And so if I was doing this pre-AI, I would find one of my old textbooks, find out how to parse streaming audio within HTML and put it in. And then the rest of it is just back and forth, sending voice messages, receiving a response back, decoding that message, and then playing it out for you. And so why I wanted to break this down is because I wanted to build this. I was discouraged, but for different reasons. I can totally see somebody new to HTML and JavaScript looking at this and being very, very intimidated because what is all of this crap? But don't be, because all of this is boilerplate. The rest of it is incredibly readable, incredibly obvious in how you would approach it. And so hopefully you'll take a look at this WebSocket demo and try and twist and turn it yourself into something useful. And so I think in this main area, you're going to be able to put more things in when you initially connect to Google. So this has done nothing, but you can send along with headers some of the things, some of the parameters that Google is looking for. I'm losing my ability to speak here. But you can add additional parameters to determine the voice. You can put in system messages. You can do a variety of things to give the AI more context about what you're doing, what you're talking about, so that you can tailor the experience. I hope that was useful walking through all of this code. It is extremely readable. If you know anything about web development, you should be able to follow this fairly easily. It's even very well commented to. So kudos for Google for making this workable. But as usual, Google has taken a slightly different approach from OpenAI, and it's just, which one do I want to build? And at the moment, it's not Google for live messages. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week with yet another project. Bye.